And just setting aside the current moment, the current revolt on the streets and the difficulties we have with what we go forward, I find this part, in these two things, very interesting. Rewinding the tape, of course, hindsight is always 20/20. Mubarak is 82 years old. Whether it was this revolt, this fall's election, or some other circumstance that was going to unfold in his health or personal situation over the next few years, he probably wasn't long for the world either way. So what was the plan? What were we doing over the last 5 or 10 or 20 years to build capacity and reasonable alternatives in Egypt? Now, that doesn't mean the United States government does it, but as it relates to NGOs, as it relates to groups and people and interests that are willing to go abroad and try to develop democratic capacity, if you will, free and fair flow of information, fair elections, human rights, other issues like that. What were we doing for 20 years? Or even 5 years? Why? Now we look in the mirror. We've got the third biggest embassy in our world. There, our U.S. embassy in Cairo, and everybody's looks to be surprised in the administration. B, we're looking around going, what are our options? What's the capacity? Would have been a good idea 5 or 10 years ago to kind of see this coming and build some reasonable alternatives between, an ailing and aging leader and elements like the Muslim Brotherhood. So then you have the administration coming out. First of all, you got Hillary Clinton saying, well, the country, the Mubarak regime is quote-unquote stable. You've got Biden saying that Mubarak's not a dictator. You've got Gibbs saying now means yesterday. You've got this guy Clapper, the national intelligence leader, saying the Muslim Brotherhood's a, quote, mostly secular, quote, organization. And you look at all that in total and some other comments, and you realize pretty quickly, at least in the early days of this event, A, they didn't see it coming, and B, I don't think they saw the situation very clearly, and maybe still don't. So going forward, the situation is very fluid, and it's extremely important that we keep a couple of things in mind. One, we need to do what we can to make sure we minimize and reduce the chance that a radical Islamic regime or organization is going to take over that country. And two, when the capacity is in place and it can be reasonably supported, we got to have a movement, or as that can be reasonably supported, we got to move it further towards openness, democracy, free and fair flow of information, a functioning press, human rights, constitutional changes and improvements and the like. But you can't just flip a switch and go from chaos to that overnight.
Do you think General Suleiman is the appropriate transitional leader, and would you have reached out to him a few years ago had you been president?
Well, Suleiman appears to be a Mubarak, confidant, and that may or may not pass at least interim test or tolerance with the people and the military. Keep in mind, it's not just the people in the street. The military is going to play an important role in determining how this unfolds and who is leading it as it unfolds. I think, though, the broader point, the one I just made, is if you step back from this, and it's your job every day to think about, and you're in the third largest embassy of the United States in the world in Cairo, and day in and day out, all you have to do is think about the future of American interests in Egypt and Egypt's place in the region and these issues more broadly, and you have a leader who is Mubarak and he's 82 years old. Don't you think somebody would have said 3, 4, 5 years ago, maybe we should be more aggressive in building some options and some alternatives here? That's, again, hindsight's 20/20, but it's obvious that they didn't do that.
Governor,